Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody attending tonight, December 4th, 2007, Reorganization meeting for the Pine-Richland School Board. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on to item 102, Dr. Muller has a few words to say.
Good evening. We have some sad news to share with our community tonight. Mr. Robert Pavlicek passed away last week. He and his family have been longtime residents of Richland Township. Son and daughter are both graduates of Pine-Richland, and we have Jake here tonight. He was recently elected as school board member for Region 3, and tonight we offer our heartfelt sympathies to his family on behalf of the entire Pine-Richland community. Before observing a moment of silence, I'd like to invite any board members who would also like to offer any thoughts.
Thanks, Brian. I didn't meet Bob Pavlicek until earlier this year when he stepped forward to run for the school board. He stepped forward. And it wasn't until later that I became aware that heeding that call to service had been a part of him and his family in our community for many years. I was only able to get to know him for a short time as he ran a campaign and prepared for board service. But it was obvious to all of us who met him. Bob was a warm person, an engaged listener. He had a great sense of humor. These are qualities every school board member could use a dose of now and then. They would have served him well, and we will sorely miss not being able to learn from him as a group. But our loss, it's all the more poignant because it's the loss of potential of what could have been, of the privilege to work with somebody who had spent so much of his time in service to others, whether volunteering at his church or through his career in service of community health issues, especially concerning our youngest and most vulnerable population. And still our loss is but a fraction of the loss of those who knew him better. As a colleague, as a friend, as a neighbor, as father to Sammy and Jake, and as husband to Laura. Please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Robert Pavlicek. Thank you.
Okay. Tonight we will welcome 4 new directors to the Pine-Richland School Board. So on behalf of the administration and staff at Pine-Richland, we thank you in advance for your service, time, and commitment to both students and to our schools. Excellent organizations are marked by effective leadership and governance. And that is our relationship as we form and work together to guide our schools. We look forward to that, and on behalf of our senior leadership team, congratulations, and we welcome you. I will share a little bit about each new board member, and we also have family, parents, spouses, children, others in attendance, so if you want to give a wave just so we can put some faces with names. Dr. Ben Campbell will join Mr. Kashani and Mr. DiTullio as a representative for Pine Region 1. He's a professor of engineering at Robert Morris University and lives in Wexford with his wife and children. Family. Okay, good. Mr. Matt Moy will join Mr. Lyons and Ms. Misbach in representing Pine and Richland Region 2. He's an executive recruiter for M. Moy Consulting, LLC, and he and his family live in Gibsonia. Ms. Chris Misbach has been an active member of the Pine-Richland community for many years and previously worked as a physical therapist. She's served as a key member of the Pine-Richland Opportunities Fund Board of Trustees. All 3 of her children have graduated from Pine-Richland High School, and she and her husband live in Gibsonia and has a son here this evening. And we have a prof representative here, so we'll let you. Okay, good. That's just what I figured you would do. Okay. And Dr. Carla Meyer will join Mrs. Goebel in representing Richland Region 3. She's an education professor at Duquesne University, earned her doctorate in education from the University of Delaware. She's taught English, language arts, reading, and literacy in both Pennsylvania and Maryland public schools. She and her family live in Gibsonia. Dr. Meyer could not be here tonight. She is an active presenter at the American Reading Forum Conference, and so very much is disappointed she couldn't be here, but is presenting at that national conference tonight. Okay. Mr. Clare.
Good evening. Those of you who don't know, I'm Pat Clare. I'm the solicitor for the school district, and I have been provided with copies of the official certificates of election from the Allegheny County Department of Elections, and they substantiate that Mrs. Misbach, Mr. Moy, and Mr. Campbell have been duly elected to serve in the office of school director for their respective regions in the Pine-Richland School District. It will be my pleasure to administer the oath of office, and then you will be formally seated as public officials. So maybe come out here in the front. At this point, we defer to the photographer. Good. Okay, I'm going to ask each of you to raise your right hand and at the flank, you will insert your name. And you repeat the oath after me. That is I. Your name, please.
Tim Campbell. Matt Moy.
Having been elected
Having been elected
to the office of school director
to the office of school director
for the Pine-Richland School District,
for the Pine-Richland School District,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and of this Commonwealth,
and of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations. You can't get up. There's something I like to say at moments like this. I get them every couple of years. I say the same thing because I find it terribly exciting in all the things I've done as a school lawyer for 25 or 30 years. Some of them have been significant. Tonight I'm not here as a lawyer. I'm here as a notary public, like the kind of guy that signs your card titles. But that's what gives me the opportunity to participate in the administering of an oath to people coming forward to serve in public office. At the local level especially, I call it Thomas Jefferson's dream, that people will come out of their homes and their fields and their shops, give freely of themselves to help manage our sometimes unmanageable republic. So I thank you and do congratulate you. I will have a written oath for each of you to sign, and then I will notarize those, and the secretary will file those with the minutes of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clare. We'll move on to roll call now. Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Mr. DiTullio?
Here.
Ms. Goebel? Here. Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Ms. Misbach? Here. Mr. Moy?
Here.
Thank you very much. Item 103, recognition of visitors. Is there anybody who would like to address the board? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 2.01, which is the election of temporary chairperson. I now call for nominations for the temporary chairperson. That person does need to be a member of the holdover group, which is Mr. Lyons, Ms. Goebel, Mr. DiTullio, and Mr. Kashani. Do I have any nominations?
I'll nominate. Thank you, Greg.
Are there any more nominations? There being none, I close the nominations. Mr. Kashani, you are now the temporary chairperson.
Can I have that gavel?
Yes, you may.
That's awesome. Did you hear that?
It's out of your way.
Item 2.02, resignation of the current school board treasurer. Need a motion to accept the resignation of Peter Lyons as school board treasurer, effective immediately.
Second.
Okay. So I have a second, just to confirm? All right. So all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Should never gave me this part. All right, Mr. Lyons, congratulations on your resignation as treasurer. All right, item 2.03. I now call for nominations of school board president. Nominations do not require a second.
I nominate Peter Lyons.
Okay. I'll second it just for the heck of it, even though we don't need it. Anybody else? Okay, there being no more nominations for president, I declare the nominations closed. And we can save some paper. Wait. Oh, do you want to be president?
I accept.
All right, so by unanimous vote, Mr. Peter Lyons has been elected president of the Pine-Richland School Board for a term of 1 year.
Thank you, Mark.
Congratulations. All right.
I don't need the gavel, but you can move a ticket out of Mark's hands.
I'll
would be
keep
fine.
Hours so fleeting. Yeah, next. Thank you.
Just in case.
How'd I do, Barb?
Next item on our agenda, item 2.04, a call for nominations for vice president of the school board.
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Christine Misbach.
And I'll second that as well.
I accept.
Are there any other nominations? By unanimous acclaim, Ms. Misbach, congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 2.05 is a call for nominations for treasurer of the school board. I'd like to nominate Mr. Mark Kashani.
I accept.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Mark Kashani, congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 2.06 is a discussion item for the meeting calendar for 2018. Dr. Miller, do you want to provide some appropriate background for us?
Sure. Over the past couple of years, we moved from a always first to always third to sort of having a flexible schedule. We've also begun to move towards some combined meetings. We've done that at various times in the year, usually to free up another night, which allowed us to focus more deeply in a certain area of the district, could be academic or student services. So what we have done this year is recommended a couple of slight alterations. The first is some additional combined meetings. We're recommending that not to reduce the amount of time we spend together, but to shift the focus so that we can spend a little bit more time working, building cohesion and connection amongst the board. And so that's the purpose of some of the combined meetings. We're also suggesting a shift to 7 o'clock instead of 7:30. The rationale behind that, we typically have a committee meeting that begins at 6 o'clock. We'd like to continue that on board meeting nights, but we can design the agenda to have an hour's worth of content and allow us to get into our regular meeting a little bit more quickly. The reality sometimes of a long committee meeting followed by a board meeting followed by executive session is that we do not always have the energy throughout that entire sequence to do what we need to do. And we believe that 7 o'clock still provides time for committee, but also allows us to get into the business of the board a little bit more quickly. So that's the rationale for what is proposed here.
And this schedule will be a voting item next week, correct?
Yes, it would be a voting item on the combined agenda on the 11th.
So does that mean that they will end sooner, too?
That depends.
By about 30 minutes. So if anybody does have any input over the next week, please provide it to the administration so we can get feedback if there's a lot of conflicts in there, and see what we can do. Item 2.07 is a motion to designate the Post-Gazette as the district's newspaper of general circulation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.08 is a motion for the appointment of a legislative representative to the Pennsylvania School Boards Association for 2018. So we can accept nominations. I have a question. Would it be appropriate to table this one? Do we have to handle this one at this meeting? I know Dr. Meyer had expressed interest in it. Is that possible to hold that one over for a week? And that is not to forestall any other nominations or anyone who wants to run, please feel free. But I just wanted to note that. And I'll wait, I'll make a motion to table, but I'll wait if this group has any nominations that would.
Is there anyone else interested? Honestly.
That's the answer.
I'm looking at the new members because I know that old are jumping out at it.
The past couple of years, I started attending the conference, and I would do it, but knowing Dr. Meyer's interest, and I don't believe we could, and I approve of the idea of naming people who don't show up for any volunteer positions, but she's not actually a member of the board yet, so we would have to defer that till next, but keep that in mind.
So we can table everything that no one volunteers for and then give it to her next.
Or whoever doesn't show up next week. Yeah. Whoever doesn't, keep that in mind if you're not showing up next. You guys are all members. Yeah, Dr. Meyer gets a pass because she hasn't been sworn in yet. That won't be so kind. I will make a motion to table item 2.08.
Well, is there a motion on the floor at first?
Oh, it hasn't been
Just
seconded.
pass over it.
You're right, it wasn't seconded.
Just pass over it.
Good point. Moving on, item 2.09, the appointment of 2 members to the Northern Area Special Purpose Joint Schools Joint Committee, affectionately referred to here as the Beatty Board. Just some background on this. The Pine-Richland School Board gets to name 2 members to that joint board. We could structure, we have some discretion, but we thought it best to restructure as a 1-year term and a 2-year term so that we have overlap. So we have 2 members to name here, 1-year and a 2-year term. What I would say is, and I know with so many new members, is we can have a chance to look at the meeting dates ahead, put them in the schedule, and look at the days, if that helps, if there's no interest at this time. It is important work. and we want to keep it filled, and we can get it filled, but if there's hesitance based on the time and the dates, I would look ahead and get a sense of those dates as
Do we
well.
have are the dates in here?
Did you overlay them on?
It's generally the fourth
It's the,
Thursday.
yeah.
Okay. So I would be interested in being on the Beatty board. I'm also interested in the Croft one too, and I don't want to take things away from anybody. But if no one wants it, I'd be interested.
But if no one else is interested in Beatty, I would do Beatty, but I'm also, so that's somebody else.
We need two. We're going to need you for Beatty. We need you for Beatty. We need two.
I'll be Beatty.
Is anyone else interested in working for us? I've done that work for a while.
I mean, I would do it if it really depends on what you want. Would you rather, if you'd rather do Beatty, and if Dr. Campbell would defer Parks, I'll do Parks again.
All right, I'll be Beatty. I'll do the right.
Okay.
I can do the two.
Yep. Yep. So we have a motion, so referring back to item 2.09, I have a motion to appoint Ms. Christine Misbach to a 2-year term and Ms. Ginny Goebel to a 2-year term, to a 1-year term as representatives for the Northern Area Special Purpose Schools Joint Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.10. Right, can I just put your name in right? Is that what we had said, or where we're going?
Well, unless, Matt or Mark, or who else is eligible?
Just-
Who's in Pine? Okay. So we're all in Pine. Does anyone want? I've enjoyed it. I like working with those folks, but if somebody else wants to do it, I don't understand somebody whoever.
I'm going to make a motion to appoint Greg DiTullio as the board rep to the Pine Township Parks and Rec Board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Greg. Item 2.11 is a motion to appoint a board member as the 2018 liaison to the Pine-Richland Opportunities Fund Board of Trustees. Would nominate Christine Misbach.
Second. Do we need a second?
Motion to appoint Christine Misbach as 2018. I'll take Mark as a second for the motion. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.12 is a motion for the appointment of a food service advisory and wellness committee representative. This is actually a relatively new requirement under state and federal law, actually. I think, did we have
It
somebody?
didn't come up through reorganization, but we identified it through the regular, when the policy was approved.
Yeah, we did appoint somebody, I thought, or we identified the need. Mrs. Dawson, right, yeah. We need just one, right?
It is not a significant time commitment. Let me just add that.
I will accept the nomination. I'll do it. Motion's been made and seconded to appoint me as representative to the food service. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, motion carries. Item 2.13, appointment of a delegate to Allegheny North Tax Collection Committee. This is a role that had been traditionally filled by Mr. Sundo as an alternate. Oh, I'm sorry, motion to appoint Dana Kirk as voting representative, and we reappoint you here as well. And Mark, I think it would make sense to
Sure.
and Mark Kashani as an alternate. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you. Item 3.01 is a discussion around the board vacancy, and I think here I would turn over to Mr. Clare to explain where we stand on a legal front with regard to Mr. Pavlicek's seat.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, with the unfortunate, certainly untimely passing of Mr. Pavlicek, this is a conundrum I haven't confronted before in terms of when a vacancy arises because of someone's passing. The school code provides that when members are coming on, the board has the power to declare a vacancy when they have not qualified, is the word, within 10 days of the commencement of the term. And so that would be today as the commencement of the term. And I've come to the conclusion, and my opinion is that the vacancy won't really arise until the board declares that vacancy at its next meeting. I think it's anticipated that that will happen a week from tonight. And that although it's anomalous, seemingly, because Mr. Pavlicek is not declining to take office, he's not capable of doing so. But to thread the needle, I'm treating it as the vacancy not arising until the board declares it. And I think that's been discussed with, I know with Dr. Miller. I don't know if any board leadership has been involved with that.
Yeah, what you shared is that then that starts a timeline
that starts your
of
30
approximately
day.
30 days, correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to add that as of course, the board under the code has 30 days in which to fill a vacancy. You have a protocol which has been employed numerous times over the last 4 to 6 years in terms of how you go about announcing that the vacancy is available and people submitting their letters of interest. But that would run, that 30 days would then run from the declaration of the vacancy next week. Enough?
So given that, what would remain is for the board to determine a timeline around filling that vacancy. And the process that has been traditionally used, as Mr. Clare referred to, just for everyone's information, is solicitation of interest from the community, so posting the vacancy, if you will, requesting applicants to submit a resume and a brief biographical form with some deadline, maybe a week or so prior to our meeting, and then meeting in a special meeting of the board collectively, and then going through essentially a panel interview process. And then at that meeting, at the conclusion, voting until such time as 5 members of the board can reach a consensus on one candidate.
I think that covers that topic.
Yeah, if that's the interest of the board, we did talk, Barb and I looked at some potentials. The calendar that we looked at earlier had a combined meeting on January 15th. So January 8th is a Monday. Our thought would be to allow interested people to submit their resume, et cetera, maybe up until the Wednesday prior to that. I think it's Wednesday the 2nd, something like that, Thursday the 3rd. Then the interviews could occur on Monday, January 8th, allowing that to occur within the 30-day window. So that was our tentative game plan.
So we will, since we're not even declaring a vacancy now, we're not going to take a formal action in terms of that date, but it's good to know and have that date. And if anyone were aware right now that they weren't available on January 8th, that would be good to know at this time.
I'm not aware that I won't be available.
Which doesn't mean you'll be available.
But knowing that we have to hold that date.
Yeah, I would put a hold on January 8th, and then we'll, what needs to go on the agenda, we'll vote on next week, and we'll enshrine that date. Before we move to the recognition of visitors and the adjournment, I did want to just make a few more comments. And once again, thank those newly elected and newly sworn-in board members for stepping forward in service. I know for most of you, this is the midpoint, the beginning of the second step and perhaps more arduous part of your journey that began almost a year ago when you stepped out and asked neighbors and friends to sign a petition to elect you to this board. As Dr. Miller shared at the beginning of the meeting, and with a group that we met last week to begin orientation preparing, the administration and members of this board have spent almost as long in preparation for this moment because it is a big transition, having 4 new board members come on board. At our last full board meeting in November, we thanked outgoing board members and knew it would be challenging to replace all those years of experience. But I have to say, look at what we have as a group with us now. Our incoming board members have dozens of years of experience working directly in education, advanced technology and engineering, human resources, finance, charitable foundation management, grant writing, tutoring. This is a wealth of knowledge and resources to draw on. In the feedback we get from the community, people always say, we want to make sure you're tapping into the resources and talents of our parents and members of the community and taking advantage of it. You can only take that which is offered. So thank you. Thank you for offering your time and your expertise. I am really excited to work with this group, and I hope you all share that excitement and share that sense of opportunity that this presents for all of us and for the district. So thank you all. Item 4.01 is our second recognition of visitors. If anyone would like to address the board, they can do so at this time. And item 4.02 is an adjournment. The board will be meeting in executive session following this meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.